The call to adventure, in the shimmering atmosphere of Zorol, a planet where crystalline spires pierce the lavender sky, Elia felt a wave of trepidation wash over her. The High Council loomed above her, their elongated faces and passive expressions betraying nothing of their thoughts. She stood rigidly before them, her blue skin shimmering under the ethereal light that filled the chamber. Elia clasped her hands tightly behind her back, fighting the tremors that threatened to betray her anxiety. The first speaker, Nyx, broke the heady silence, her voice resonating with authority. "You have been chosen for a mission of utmost importance to our people." Elia inclined her head, her sapphire skin glowing in the light. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. It was an honor, yes, but also a burden she had not anticipated. Nyx continued, "Our long-range probes have identified a potential colony world, Earth." A holographic projection of Earth materialized between them, swirling blue and green, a vibrant orb that seemed to pulse with life. Elia's fascination mingled with dread. Her mind raced with the implications of the mission laid before her. "Your expertise in primitive cultures makes you uniquely qualified for this assignment," Nyx continued, her large opalescent eyes fixed on Elia, probing her reaction. Elia felt a knot form in her stomach. The council members believed this was a straightforward diplomatic endeavor, but she knew better. Their discussions had hinted at a different kind of interaction with the humans. The first speaker's voice cut through her thoughts. "Your mission is to establish first contact and pave the way for our eventual colonization. You will do this by becoming a diplomatic spouse to one of their leaders." The words hit Elia like a plasma burst. She staggered back a step, her heart racing, her mind struggling to comprehend the enormity of the task assigned to her. "Diplomatic spouse," she echoed, her voice barely a whisper. The thought sent shivers down her spine. The second speaker, Zen, leaned forward, his fingers steepling in front of him. "Our intelligence suggests that humans place great value on pair bonding. By integrating yourself into their power structure through marriage, you will be ideally positioned to gather critical information and influence their decision-makers." Elia's mind reeled. She had spent years studying alien cultures, yet the thought of intimate contact with a human filled her with revulsion. "Forgive me, speakers, but is this truly necessary? Surely, there are other ways to achieve our goals." Nyx's expression hardened. "Our decision is final. You depart in 3 cycles. Prepare yourself." The dismissal was clear. Elia bowed stiffly, her heart pounding in her chest as she exited the chamber, the weight of her new reality pressing down on her like a leaden cloak. Outside the chamber, she slumped against the cool wall, struggling to process the magnitude of what had just transpired. Just then, a familiar voice broke her reverie. "Well, you look like you've been assigned to clean the waste recyclers with your tongue." It was Vex, her colleague, looking at her with concern etched on his face. "Worst," Elia thought, the words barely escaping her lips. "I'm being sent to Earth as a mate." Vex's eyes widened in disbelief. "By the void, you can't be serious." Elia nodded grimly. "The Council thinks it's the best way to infiltrate their power structure. But humans," she trailed off, her thoughts consumed by the savage nature of the species she had seen in intercepted transmissions. "They're always fighting, destroying their own world. Have you seen their mating rituals? Revolting." "Trust me, I'm well aware," Elia replied, pushing off from the wall. "Come on, I need a drink. A strong one." They made their way to a nearby lounge, a comforting space where the chairs molded to their forms. Elia ordered a glass of fermented nectar, downing half of it in a single gulp. "There has to be some way out of this," Vex mused, a flicker of hope in his voice. "Maybe if we compile a report on the potential biohazard." "I've already tried every argument I could think of," Elia interrupted. "The Council won't budge. They're determined to colonize Earth, and they see this as the quickest path." Vex's expression softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry, my friend. I can't imagine having to interface with one of those brutes." Elia's mind conjured images from the transmissions: pale, fleshy bodies, flat faces, protruding noses, and mouths full of blunt teeth. The thought made her shudder. "Maybe it won't be so bad," she said, forcing optimism into her voice. "They can't all be violent barbarians, right?" Vex gave her a skeptical look. "Have you seen the entertainment broadcasts? It's all explosions and conflict. Even their supposedly peaceful leaders are constantly rattling plasma sabers at each other." Elia drained the rest of her drink, feeling a pleasant buzz start to calm her nerves. "Well, I don't have a choice. In 3 cycles, I'll be on my way to some alien's bed." She tried for a wry smile, attempting to lighten the mood. "At least it'll be an educational experience." "That's the spirit," Vex said, patting her arm. "Look at it as an anthropological study. Just try not to get eaten." Elia rolled her eyes, the humor barely touching the dread that settled in her gut. The next 3 cycles passed in a blur of frantic preparation. She immersed herself in human language and customs, trying to steel herself for what lay ahead. As the moment of departure drew near, she felt a profound sense of isolation settle over her. She was venturing into the unknown, about to come face to face with creatures that both fascinated and terrified her. Soon, she found herself boarding the sleek interstellar craft that would carry her to Earth. As Zorro receded behind her, Elia stared out at the stars, her heart heavy with uncertainty. The journey passed uneventfully, giving her far too much time to imagine worst-case scenarios. By the time they entered Earth's orbit, her nerves were frayed to the breaking point. A delegation awaited her as the craft touched down at a secure facility. She took a deep breath, smoothing down her iridescent formal robes, and stepped out to face her new reality. The first thing that struck her was the oppressive gravity. It felt as though invisible hands were pushing down on her shoulders. Then came the cacophony of scents assaulting her sensitive olfactory organs. A group of humans approached, and Elia fought the urge to recoil. They were even more alien up close, with their awkward angles and exposed skin. Their eyes seemed disconcertingly small, and their expressions were difficult to read. One of the humans, a female if Elia was interpreting the secondary sex characteristics correctly, stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth," she said in carefully enunciated Zoralan. "I am Dr. Sarah Clean, head of xenobiology at the United Nations Space Agency." Elia inclined her head in the traditional greeting of her people. "I am honored by your welcome, Dr. Clean. I am xenoanthropologist Elia, emissary of Zorol." Dr. Clean smiled, revealing blunt teeth in what Elia hoped was a friendly gesture. "We're thrilled to have you here, Elia. If you'll follow me, we have a team ready to help you acclimate and begin the diplomatic process." As they walked, Elia surreptitiously studied the humans around her. They moved with a sort of lumbering grace, their bipedal gait so different from her own fluid movements. She noted the wide variety of pigmentation in their skin and hair, a spectrum that was alien to her. They entered a large, sterile-looking room filled with various equipment. A man in a white coat approached, his face etched with lines that indicated age. "Elia, this is Dr. Ron Claim," Sarah introduced. "He'll be conducting your medical evaluation and helping you adjust to the Earth environment." Elia's eyes widened in surprise. This was the leader she was meant to pair with. He seemed older than she had expected, but there was a keen intelligence in his gaze that caught her off guard. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Elia," Dr. Claim said, his voice unexpectedly warm. "I know this must all be overwhelming for you. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to make you more comfortable." Elia blinked, taken aback by his considerate tone. "I thank you, Dr. Claim. I admit I am finding the gravity rather challenging." He nodded sympathetically. "We anticipated that might be an issue. We prepared a special harness that should help counteract some of the effects until you acclimate. Would you like to try it?" "Yes, please," Elia said, relief evident in her voice. As Dr. Claim helped her into the harness, explaining its function, she found herself re-evaluating her preconceptions. This human seemed neither brutish nor aggressive. In fact, his manner was almost soothing. "How's that?" Dr. Claim asked as he made a final adjustment, his fingers brushing against her arm. Elia felt an unexpected tingle at the contact. She straightened, marveling at the difference. "Much better, thank you. You're very knowledgeable about xenobiology." A hint of color appeared in Dr. Claim's cheeks. "It's been my life's work studying the possibility of alien life. I never dreamed I'd actually get to meet a representative of an advanced civilization, especially one as fascinating as yourself." His gaze lingered on her for a moment, and Elia felt a strange flutter in her chest. She pushed the sensation aside, reminding herself of her mission. "I've devoted my career to studying other cultures as well. Perhaps we could exchange notes sometime." Dr. Claim's face lit up. "I'd love that. There's so much we could learn from each other, maybe over dinner." Elia hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation. "Aye, that would be acceptable," she managed. As they continued with the evaluation, Elia found herself warming to the human doctor. He was unfailingly patient, explaining each step of the process and showing genuine concern for her comfort. "I must admit," Elia said as Dr. Claim drew a sample of her blood, his touch surprisingly gentle, "You're not what I expected." He raised an eyebrow, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "Oh, and what were you expecting?" "A brutish caveman." Elia's cheeks flushed a deeper blue. "To be honest, someone more aggressive, warlike." Dr. Claim chuckled, the sound sending an unexpected shiver down Elia's spine. "Ah, I see you've been watching our action movies, haven't you? I assure you, most of us aren't nearly so violent in real life, though I can be quite passionate when the situation calls for it." The way he said passionate made Elia's pulse quicken. She struggled to maintain her composure. "I'm beginning to see that," she murmured. As the evaluation wrapped up, Dr. Claim's expression grew more serious. "Elia, I know you're here as part of a diplomatic mission. I want you to know that I'm committed to fostering peaceful relations between our peoples. Whatever your purpose here, I hope we can work together towards mutual understanding, and perhaps something more." Elia felt a twinge of guilt at the sincerity in his words, mixed with a growing attraction she hadn't anticipated. She thought of the colonization plans waiting to be set in motion and forced herself to nod. "That is my hope as well, Dr. Claim." He smiled warmly, taking her hand in his. As Elia left the medical bay, her mind whirled with conflicting emotions. The humans, Ron in particular, were nothing like she had imagined. For the first time since receiving her assignment, a tiny spark of excitement flickered to life within her. Perhaps this mission wouldn't be the nightmare she had feared. Perhaps there was hope for genuine connection, even understanding, between their species, and maybe, just maybe, something more than she had ever dared to dream. But as the weight of her true purpose settled back onto her shoulders, Elia couldn't shake the feeling that she was balanced on the edge of a knife. One wrong move, and everything could come crashing down around her. With a deep breath, she straightened her posture and moved forward into her new life on Earth. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the dignity befitting an emissary of Zorol. And if her heart raced at the thought of her next meeting with Dr. Ron Claim, well, that was a complication she would have to deal with later. Uncharted territory. The first week on Earth felt like an eternity for Elia. Each day presented her with a myriad of new experiences, some delightful and others overwhelming. With Ron by her side, she navigated the complexities of human life, discovering the rich tapestry of cultures, emotions, and traditions that defined this strange planet. After their initial meeting in the medical bay, Ron had been diligent in introducing her to various aspects of Earth's environment and customs. He quickly became her guide, mentor, and, unbeknownst to her, something more. Their relationship began to blossom in ways that Elia had never anticipated. On their second day together, Ron took her to a bustling marketplace in a nearby city. As they stepped out of the sleek transport pod, Elia was immediately engulfed in a whirlwind of sounds and smells. The air was thick with the scent of spices, fresh produce, and something sweet that made her mouth water. "Welcome to the Earth Market," Ron said, gesturing expansively at the vibrant stalls. "It's a place where people come together to buy food, goods, and socialize. You'll find a lot of cultural diversity here." Elia marveled at the variety of colors and textures surrounding her. Stalls overflowed with fruits and vegetables in shades she had never seen before. She approached a vendor selling small, vibrant red fruits. "What are these?" she asked, pointing at them. "They're called strawberries," Ron replied, smiling. "You eat them fresh, or they can be used in desserts. Would you like to try one?" "Yes, please," he said, her excitement palpable. Ron purchased a small basket and handed it to her. As she took her first bite, the sweetness burst in her mouth, and she couldn't help but grin. "Delicious," Elia exclaimed, her eyes wide with delight. Ron chuckled at her reaction, clearly pleased to share this moment with her. "You see, humans can be quite wonderful. There's so much more to us than the images you've seen." Elia nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She was beginning to see the depth of humanity that lay beneath the surface. As they continued to explore, Ron introduced her to various foods, tacos, sushi, and a peculiar dish called pizza that was topped with cheese and a variety of ingredients. With each new flavor, Elia felt a little more connected to this world and a little less like an outsider. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the city, they settled onto a park bench to rest. Ron turned to her, his eyes glimmering with curiosity. "What do you think of Earth so far?" Elia considered his question, her mind racing with thoughts and emotions. "It is overwhelming yet beautiful," she admitted. "The colors, the sounds, the variety of life, it is all so different from Zorol. I feel as though I am experiencing something truly extraordinary." "And you haven't even seen the best parts yet," Ron said with a smile. "The people here have a resilience and creativity that often surprises even me. You'll see how they come together in times of need or celebration." Elia nodded, intrigued. She felt a growing desire to understand these humans more deeply. She wanted to know their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. The thought of forging connections with them made her heart race. As they sat in the park, the atmosphere shifted. The park was starting to fill with families and groups of friends. Laughter floated on the breeze, mingling with the sounds of music from a nearby performance. Elia watched as children ran past, their joy infectious. A sense of longing crept into her heart. She wished for the same carefree happiness, to bond with those around her without the weight of her mission looming overhead. "Would you like to join the festivities?" Ron asked, sensing her mood. "There's a local band playing in a few minutes, and people often dance. It's a great way to immerse yourself in Earth culture." "Yes, I would like that," Elia replied, her voice filled with anticipation. As they made their way toward the gathering, the rhythm of the music began to resonate in her chest. Once they arrived, Elia was captivated by the sight of people dancing freely, their movements expressive and unrestrained. The music pulsed through the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and celebration. She had never seen anything like it before. It was an outpouring of emotion that transcended words. Ron turned to her with a grin. "Want to give it a try?" Elia hesitated, her pulse quickening. She had always been a creature of grace, her movements fluid and precise, but dancing was an entirely different matter. "I don't know how," she admitted, feeling a flush of embarrassment. "Just let go and feel the music," Ron encouraged, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "It's not about perfection, it's about expression. Trust me." With a deep breath, Elia took his hand, and they joined the throng of dancers. At first, she stumbled over her own feet, feeling awkward and out of sync. But as she began to lose herself in the rhythm, something shifted. The music flowed through her, igniting a spark of joy she hadn't felt since her arrival on Earth. She glanced at Ron, who was dancing with a carefree abandon that made her smile. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Elia felt a connection that transcended their cultural differences. They were two beings sharing a moment of pure joy, a moment that felt both intimate and exhilarating. As the night wore on, Elea found herself laughing, her worries fading away amidst the music and camaraderie surrounding her. She began to understand Ron not just as her guide, but as a friend, someone who made this strange world feel a little more like home. The following days brought even more adventures. Ron introduced her to the concept of sports, explaining the various games humans played for fun and competition. They attended a local soccer match, and Elea was enthralled by the passion of the fans, their cheers echoing through the stadium. The energy was contagious, and she found herself swept up in the excitement, even as she struggled to understand the rules. Later, they visited an art gallery filled with breathtaking paintings and sculptures, each piece telling a story of human experience. Elea found herself captivated by a painting that depicted a scene of unity, people of all colors and backgrounds coming together in harmony. It resonated deeply within her, a reflection of the hope she felt for her own mission. As their friendship deepened, Elea began to share more about her own culture and experiences on Zorol. She described the beauty of her planet, the tranquil forests, the bioluminescent flora, and the harmonious connection her people had with nature. Ron listened intently, his eyes filled with wonder. "I can't imagine what that must be like," he said, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "It sounds like a dream." "It is," Elea replied, a wistful smile touching her lips. "But it's also a responsibility. We have a duty to preserve our world, just as I feel I have a duty to my people here on Earth." Their conversations began to touch on deeper subjects: identity, purpose, and the challenges of bridging two cultures. Elea felt her walls slowly crumbling, the fear of her mission becoming intertwined with the excitement of connection. With each shared laugh and every moment of vulnerability, she felt her heart opening to Ron in ways she hadn't anticipated. But the weight of her true purpose was never far from her mind. Elea was here to facilitate the Council's plans for colonization, to gather intelligence, and to influence human leaders. The thought of deceiving Ron, who had become such an important part of her life, gnawed at her. She had to find a way to navigate the complexities of her dual role without losing herself in the process. One evening, after a particularly enlightening day spent exploring Earth's history at a museum, Elea found herself sitting on a bench outside, gazing up at the stars. Ron joined her, sensing her contemplative mood. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently, his voice soft and reassuring. Elea took a deep breath, wrestling with her thoughts. "I find myself torn between two worlds," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I came here with a mission, a duty to my people, but in getting to know you and your world, I'm beginning to feel a connection that I didn't expect." Ron turned to her, his expression earnest. "It's okay to feel that way. What you're experiencing is normal, especially when faced with something new and unfamiliar. But remember, you don't have to choose one over the other. You can bridge both worlds." Elea's heart swelled at his words, a glimmer of hope igniting within her. "But what if my loyalties clash? What if I end up hurting those I care about?" "Then you face that challenge with honesty," Ron replied, his gaze unwavering. "It's about finding a balance. You don't have to sacrifice your heritage to embrace another culture. Instead, let them enrich each other." Elea considered his words carefully, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. In that moment, she realized that perhaps her mission wasn't solely about deceit and manipulation. Maybe it could also be about understanding, fostering connections, and finding a way to bring their two worlds together for the greater good. With newfound determination, Elea turned to Ron, her eyes shining with possibility. "I want to learn everything I can about humans, about their cultures and values. I want to be a true bridge between our peoples." Ron smiled, his eyes lighting up with pride. "Then let's make that happen. Together we can build a future that honors both Zorol and Earth." As the stars twinkled above them, Elea felt a sense of purpose fill her. She was ready to embrace the challenges ahead, to navigate the complexities of her dual existence. The journey was just beginning, and with Ron by her side, she felt confident that they could face whatever obstacles lay ahead, together. In the weeks that followed, Elia and Ron forged an unbreakable bond, exploring the vast landscape of human experience while subtly weaving in elements of her own culture. They visited historical sites, attended local festivals, and shared stories that blended their worlds into something beautiful and profound. With each shared experience, Elia's resolve grew stronger, and she felt her fears begin to dissipate. However, in the back of her mind lingered the ever-looming threat of her true mission. With each passing day, she was torn between her loyalty to her people and the growing connection she felt to Ron and the humans. She understood the importance of her role, but couldn't shake the feeling that her mission might lead to a collision course that would change everything. Yet, in the heart of this uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited. Elia believed that perhaps they could forge a new path together, one that could unify their worlds rather than divide them. With her heart set on finding a way to reconcile her duties with her growing affection for humanity, she braced herself for the challenges that lay ahead. In this uncharted territory, both she and Ron would have to navigate the complex waters of love, duty, and the hope for a shared future. The unfolding connection. As the days turned into weeks, Elia found herself fully immersed in the vibrant tapestry of Earth's life. With Ron as her guide, she navigated through the myriad wonders of the human experience, each new revelation deepening her understanding and challenging her preconceptions. The city pulsated with energy, and each corner held an adventure waiting to unfold. One sunny afternoon, Ron suggested they visit a local festival celebrating the harvest season. "It's one of my favorite events of the year," he said, his excitement palpable. "You'll get to see traditional music, dance, and of course, delicious food." Elia was eager to participate. Festivals on Zorol were often grand celebrations filled with music and dance, but she sensed there was something uniquely human about how they celebrated their seasons. As they arrived at the festival grounds, the air was thick with the aroma of roasted meats, sweet pastries, and fresh fruits. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, and laughter echoed around them, creating a symphony of joy that enveloped Elia. "This is amazing," she exclaimed, her eyes wide as she took in the colorful booths filled with handmade crafts, artwork, and local delicacies. "There's so much life here." Ron smiled, clearly delighted by her enthusiasm. "Let's try some food first," he suggested, leading her toward a vendor selling savory pies. "They're called empanadas. You'll love them." After sampling a few different fillings, spiced meats, vegetables, and sweet fruits, Elia felt a warmth inside her, both from the food and the energy of the festival. "This is incredible," she said, savoring the flavors. "The combinations are unlike anything I've tasted before." As they wandered through the festival, Ron introduced her to different activities. They joined a group dancing in a circle, the music lively and infectious. Elia found herself swept up in the rhythm, her movements blending with those around her. It was a joyful release, one that reminded her of the vibrant celebrations back home, yet it was distinctly different in its carefree spirit. "Look at you go." Ron laughed, twirling her around as they danced. Elia couldn't help but laugh in return, feeling a rush of exhilaration. In this moment, surrounded by laughter and music, her worries seemed to melt away. Later, they stumbled upon a booth where people were painting and creating art. Elia's curiosity piqued. "May I try?" she asked, eyeing the canvas and paints. "Absolutely. I'd love to see what you create," Ron encouraged, stepping aside to give her room. Elia picked up a brush, feeling the familiar tingle of inspiration course through her. She began to paint, her strokes fluid and expressive as she captured the essence of the festival, the colors, the laughter, the sense of community. As she worked, she glanced at Ron, who watched her with admiration, his eyes reflecting a deep appreciation for her artistry. "You have a gift, Elia," he said, his voice warm and genuine. "Your work captures the spirit of this place beautifully." "Thank you," she replied, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. "It reminds me of home. Art has always been a way for my people to express our connection to the universe." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the festival, Ron suggested they find a quiet spot to enjoy the view. They settled on a grassy hill overlooking the festivities, the sounds of laughter and music drifting up to them like a warm embrace. "Can you see how much joy this brings people?" Ron asked, his gaze fixed on the scene below. "It's moments like these that remind me of the strength of community and connection." Elia nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. "It is beautiful. On Zorol, we also celebrate our harvests, but it feels different. We're more connected to nature in a spiritual way." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "We believe that each harvest is a gift from the universe, a reminder of our responsibility to care for our world." Ron turned to her, intrigued. "I'd love to hear more about your culture. How do you celebrate?" Elia took a deep breath, feeling a mix of pride and vulnerability. "During our harvest festival, we gather together in our sacred groves, where the flora glows under the bioluminescent light. We sing songs of gratitude and share stories of our ancestors, connecting with both the past and the future." "Your traditions sound incredible," Ron said softly, his gaze holding hers. "I wish I could experience it firsthand." A moment of silence enveloped them, thick with unspoken understanding. Elia felt a rush of warmth at the thought of sharing her world with him. But alongside that warmth was the nagging weight of her mission. She was supposed to gather intelligence, to report back to the High Council about humanity's strengths and weaknesses. The thought felt heavy in her chest. She didn't want to betray the growing connection she felt with Ron or the bond they were forging. Yet, she knew the Council's plans loomed over her, an ever-present shadow. "Are you okay?" Ron's voice broke through her thoughts, concern etched on his face. "You look a bit troubled." Elia hesitated, considering whether to share her feelings. "I am, just thinking about my mission here. There's so much at stake for my people, and sometimes it feels overwhelming." Ron nodded, his expression earnest. "You don't have to carry that weight alone. I'm here for you, Elia. Whatever challenges you're facing, we can face them together." His words resonated deep within her, filling her with a sense of comfort and camaraderie. "Thank you, Ron. Your support means more to me than I can express." As the festival continued into the night, they remained on the hill, sharing stories and laughter beneath the stars. Elia felt a bond with Ron that transcended the boundaries of their cultures. He was no longer just a human to her. He was a friend, a confidant, and perhaps something more. The following day, Ron introduced Elia to the concept of volunteering, explaining how humans often come together to help their communities. "There's a park cleanup this weekend, and I think it would be a great experience for you," he suggested. Elia was intrigued. "What does volunteering involve?" "It's about giving back," Ron explained, enthusiasm shining in his eyes. "You'll be helping to clean up the park, and it's a wonderful way to meet people and contribute to the environment." Elia considered it carefully. The idea of contributing to Earth's preservation resonated with her deeply. "I would love to join you," she said, a spark of determination igniting within her. As they worked side by side during the cleanup, Elia found joy in the simple act of collecting litter, her efforts blending seamlessly with the camaraderie of the volunteers. She felt a sense of purpose that connected her to both the Earth and her mission. "See, this is what community looks like," Ron said, smiling as he handed her a large bag to fill. "We may have our differences, but at the end of the day, we all want to make the world a better place." Elia nodded, feeling a deep sense of kinship with the people around her. She realized that, despite her initial reservations about humans, there was a shared humanity that transcended their cultural differences. As the day went on, Elia and Ron grew closer, their conversations shifting to deeper topics, family, dreams, and the hopes they had for their respective worlds. They discovered they shared common values, a desire for peace, understanding, and connection. However, as they worked, Elia couldn't shake the feeling of conflict brewing beneath the surface. She was tasked with gathering information about humans and their weaknesses, yet her experiences with Ron made her see them in a different light. That night, as they cleaned up after a successful day of volunteering, Ron looked at her with a mix of curiosity and concern. "You've changed since you first arrived, Elia. There's a light in your eyes that wasn't there before. What's happening?" Elia took a deep breath, knowing she had to address the feelings swirling within her. "I've learned so much from you and this world, Ron, but I'm also afraid. My mission here is complex, and I fear I might be betraying the trust we've built." Ron's expression softened, understanding the weight of her words. "I can't pretend to know what it's like to carry that burden, but I want you to know that you have my trust. Whatever you're facing, I'm here for you." In that moment, Elia felt a rush of gratitude and affection for Ron. He had become her anchor in this tumultuous sea of emotions, a steady presence that reassured her even as her heart wrestled with the implications of her mission. As the days passed, Elia found herself torn between her duties and her growing attachment to Ron. They continued to explore Earth together, forging memories that would forever shape her perception of humanity. But every shared moment came with a nagging reminder of her purpose, her role as a diplomat, a bridge between their worlds. It was during a quiet evening at a cafe that Elia finally resolved to confront her inner turmoil. They sat at a small table, sipping steaming mugs of coffee, the atmosphere cozy and intimate. Elia felt the weight of her confession pressing against her chest, and she knew she could no longer avoid it. "Ron, there's something I need to share with you," she said, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "My presence here is part of a mission. I was sent to establish contact with your people on behalf of my planet." Ron's eyes widened slightly, surprise flickering across his face. "What do you mean? Is that why you're here?" "Yes," Elia admitted, her heart pounding. "I'm supposed to gather information about humans and help pave the way for future interactions between our species. But I never expected to form such a deep connection with you and your world. It's complicated." Ron studied her for a moment, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding. "You're saying you've been sent here to influence our leaders and help your people colonize Earth?" Elia nodded, the weight of her truth hanging heavy in the air. "Yes, but my feelings have changed. I see now that my mission is not just about data collection. It's about building connections, real connections." Ron's gaze softened, a blend of compassion and concern. "I appreciate your honesty, Elia, but you have to understand that your mission could have serious consequences for our people." "I know," Elia replied, tears brimming in her eyes. "But I don't want to betray what we've built together. I want to find a way to bring our worlds together, not tear them apart." Ron took her hand in his grip reassuring. "We'll figure this out together. I believe there's a way for you to fulfill your mission without compromising your values or the trust we've built, but it's going to require a lot of communication and collaboration between our cultures." Elia felt a surge of hope at his words. "You really think so?" "I do," he replied, determination shining in his eyes. "It won't be easy, but I believe that if we work together, we can find a solution that honors both of our worlds." In that moment, Elia realized the depth of her feelings for Ron. He wasn't just a friend, he was someone who challenged her to be better, to think beyond her mission, and to embrace the possibility of unity. As they sat together, hands intertwined, Elia felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She was ready to confront the complexities of her dual existence, to forge a path that embraced both her duties and her newfound connection to Ron and humanity. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but together they could navigate the intricate web of cultures, ideals, and hopes. With the warmth of Ron's hand in hers, Elia knew that she was not alone in this endeavor. They would stand together at the crossroads of their worlds, forging a future that transcended the boundaries of their origins. With renewed determination, Elia took a deep breath, ready to embrace the unfolding story of her life on Earth, one where she could be both a diplomat and a friend, a bridge between Zorul and humanity, united in a quest for understanding and harmony. A fragile alliance. The weeks flowed seamlessly into a tapestry of shared experiences and whispered hopes, each day revealing more of the vibrant world that Elia was learning to call home. She and Ron became inseparable, exploring everything from quaint little caves to sprawling nature reserves, their bond deepening with each shared adventure. Yet, the shadow of her mission loomed large, a constant reminder of the dual life she was leading. One bright morning, as the sun poured golden light over the city, Ron suggested a trip to a nearby national park renowned for its breathtaking beauty. "You need to see the forests here," he said, his eyes alight with excitement. "The trees are massive, and there are some incredible hiking trails. Plus, the wildlife is unlike anything you've ever seen." Elia felt a flutter of anticipation at the prospect. She had always found solace in nature, and the thought of immersing herself in Earth's wilderness thrilled her. "I would love to go," she replied, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "What should I expect?" "Expect to be amazed," Ron grinned. "The park is filled with towering trees, diverse plants, and a variety of animals. Just wait until you see the giant sequoias." As they drove through the winding roads leading to the park, Elia felt a sense of exhilaration building inside her. The landscape shifted from the urban sprawl to lush greenery, and the air grew crisp and invigorating. The vibrant hues of autumn leaves painted a picturesque scene, and Elia found herself entranced by the natural beauty unfolding around her. Upon arriving, they stepped out of the vehicle and into a world of wonder. Towering sequoias loomed overhead, their thick trunks rising majestically into the sky. Elia gazed up in awe, marveling at their size and the sheer age they represented. "These trees have been alive for thousands of years," she whispered, feeling a deep reverence for the ancient beings. Ron smiled at her reaction, clearly pleased. "They're incredible, right? There's a certain energy in these woods that you can't find anywhere else." As they hiked along the winding trails, Elia felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The sounds of rustling leaves, chirping birds, and the distant rush of a river created a soothing symphony. With every step, she became more attuned to the rhythm of the forest, the connection to nature reminding her of her home on Zorul. After a while, they found a clearing where the sunlight streamed through the branches, casting a warm glow. Elia took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh, earthy scent of the forest. "This is beautiful," she said, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I feel so connected to this place." Ron sat down on a fallen log, gesturing for her to join him. There's something about being surrounded by nature that makes you appreciate life in a different way. It reminds us of our place in the universe. Elia nodded, reflecting on his words. She shared her own thoughts about Zorul's sacred groves, where her people held ceremonies to honor their connection to the environment. Ron listened intently, his eyes filled with curiosity. "I can see how much you cherish your home," he said softly. "Your stories paint such a vivid picture. It makes me want to experience it for myself." A moment of silence stretched between them, thick with understanding. Elia's heart ached with the desire to share her world with him, to show him the beauty and wonder of Zorul, but the thought of her mission cast a shadow over her excitement. How could she reconcile her feelings for Ron with the responsibilities that weighed on her? "Are you all right?" Ron's voice broke through her thoughts, concern etched on his face. "You seem a bit distant." Elia took a deep breath, contemplating whether to open up about her struggles. "I am trying to find a balance," she admitted. "My heart feels torn between two worlds. I want to honor my mission, but I also want to embrace what we have." Ron nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. "It's okay to feel conflicted. It shows how much you care. But remember, it's possible to honor both your mission and your feelings for me." Elia felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "You always know what to say," she replied, smiling softly. "Thank you for being so understanding." They continued their hike, exploring the winding trails that led deeper into the forest. As they walked, they encountered a family of deer grazing peacefully in a clearing. Elia watched in awe as the graceful creatures moved effortlessly among the trees, their gentle presence adding to the tranquility of the moment. "Look at them," she whispered, captivated. "They seem so at peace with their surroundings." "They are," Ron replied, his gaze fixed on the deer. "In nature, there's a sense of harmony that reminds us of the interconnectedness of all life." Elia felt a spark of inspiration as she observed the deer. She was reminded of the importance of coexistence and balance, values that resonated deeply with her own beliefs. "Perhaps this is what I need to focus on," she mused aloud. "Finding a way to bring that sense of harmony to our worlds." Ron turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "That's a beautiful idea. If you can share the wisdom of your culture and the lessons learned from living in harmony with nature, it might help bridge the gap between Zoral and Earth." The thought resonated within her. She could see a path forward, a way to fulfill her mission without sacrificing her values. Elia felt her heart swell with renewed determination. Perhaps there was a way to advocate for both her people and the humans, to create a dialogue that fostered understanding rather than conflict. After hours of hiking, they finally reached a breathtaking viewpoint overlooking a vast expanse of forest stretching to the horizon. The colors of autumn painted the landscape in vibrant reds, oranges, and yellows, and Elia felt a sense of awe wash over her. "This is incredible," she breathed, taking in the view. "It's as if the forest is telling a story, one that has been unfolding for centuries." Ron stood beside her, his presence comforting. "It's a story we're all part of, whether we realize it or not. Every tree, every animal, every person contributes to the tapestry of life." Elia turned to him, her heart racing as she felt the weight of their shared experiences pressing upon her. "You've opened my eyes to so much, Ron. I'm grateful for your guidance." "And I'm grateful for your friendship, Elia," he replied, his voice sincere. "You've shown me a different perspective on life, and I admire your passion for understanding both our worlds." As they stood together in silence, Elia felt the boundaries between them beginning to dissolve. She wanted to share everything with him, the beauty of Zoral, the traditions of her people, and the challenges they faced. But as her heart soared, a pang of fear gripped her. Would he understand? Would he accept her for who she truly was? Their moment of connection was interrupted when a rustle in the bushes caught their attention. Suddenly, a young fox emerged, its eyes bright and curious. It approached cautiously, seemingly unafraid of their presence. "Look," Elia exclaimed, her eyes widening in delight. "It's so beautiful." Ron chuckled. "You really love animals, don't you?" "I do. They remind me of the bond we share with all living things," she replied, watching the fox with fascination. "In Zoral, we have a deep respect for the creatures that inhabit our world. They are teachers in their own right." The fox, seemingly drawn to their energy, trotted closer, sniffing the air as it investigated their presence. Elia felt a surge of joy. This creature was a symbol of the harmony she yearned for between their cultures. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow of the landscape, Elia and Ron made their way back down the trail, their hearts buoyed by the connection they had forged throughout the day. Later that evening, they returned to Ron's apartment, where he had prepared a simple dinner of pasta and fresh vegetables. As they sat down to eat, Elia felt a sense of warmth enveloping her, a feeling of belonging that she hadn't anticipated. Over dinner, they shared stories, laughter, and a comfortable silence that spoke volumes. Elia could feel her heart growing fonder of Ron, but the shadows of her mission still lingered in the back of her mind, reminding her of the precarious balance she needed to maintain. As they finished their meal, Ron leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, Elia, I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about finding a way to create harmony between our worlds." Elia felt her pulse quicken. "Yes, what do you think?" "I think it starts with dialogue. Maybe you could organize a cultural exchange or a discussion forum where people from both worlds can share their stories and experiences," he suggested, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. It could be a way to foster understanding and respect. Elia's heart raced at the idea. That could work. If we can highlight our similarities rather than our differences, it might pave the way for peace. Ron nodded, excitement bubbling in his voice. And I can help you. I know people in various fields who would be interested in collaborating. This could be the bridge we need. A rush of hope filled Elia's heart. Yes, this could be the beginning of something transformative, she said, her voice full of conviction. It's exactly what I've been searching for. As they brainstormed ideas for the cultural exchange, Elia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that she didn't have to choose between her mission and her connection with Ron. Instead, she could weave the two together, creating a narrative that honored both her heritage and the possibilities that lay ahead. However, a flicker of doubt still lingered in the back of her mind. What if the High Council rejected her ideas? What if they dismissed her attempts to foster peace? She shook her head, pushing the thoughts aside. For now, she would focus on what she could control, building connections and forging a path toward understanding. That night, as she prepared to sleep, Elia couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. With Ron by her side, she felt empowered to face the challenges ahead, ready to bridge the gap between Zoral and Earth in a way that could reshape their futures. As she drifted off to sleep, her dreams filled with visions of cooperation, friendship, and a world where humans and Zoralians stood together as allies. She was ready to embrace the journey ahead, one that promised to redefine what it meant to be an emissary, a diplomat, and a friend. With hope burning brightly in her heart, Elia knew that the fragile alliance they were forging was worth every challenge they would face. Together, they would embark on a quest that transcended borders and cultures, one that sought to unite their worlds in a shared vision of harmony and understanding. The gathering storm. As autumn deepened and the leaves transformed into vibrant hues of red and gold, Elia and Ron poured their energy into planning the cultural exchange. They spent long evenings brainstorming ideas, drafting proposals, and reaching out to potential collaborators. The more they worked together, the more Elia felt a sense of purpose and excitement growing within her. Ron introduced her to various individuals in the community who shared his vision of fostering understanding between their two worlds. Among them was Dr. Sarah Klein, who had initially welcomed Elia to Earth. A renowned xenobiologist, Sarah possessed a wealth of knowledge about the potential ramifications of interspecies relations and was eager to contribute. "I think it's a fantastic idea," Sarah said, her enthusiasm infectious. "By sharing our cultures, we can highlight the common threads that bind us, making it harder for fear and misunderstanding to take root." Elia felt invigorated by Sarah's support. If we can create a series of events, workshops, discussions, and even art exhibitions, we could showcase the beauty and richness of both Zoral and Earth. People could learn directly from one another. As the planning sessions progressed, they outlined the first event, a festival to celebrate both Earth and Zorali cultures. They envisioned food stalls featuring dishes from both worlds, performances showcasing traditional music and dance, and interactive workshops where attendees could learn about each other's customs and languages. However, even as the excitement built, Elia sensed a growing tension in the air. She had kept the details of her mission from Ron and Sarah, afraid of how they might react. Her heart was heavy with the burden of deception, and the weight of her secret grew more unbearable with each passing day. In the midst of the planning, Elia received a message from the High Council back on Zoral. They demanded an update on her progress, emphasizing the importance of her mission to establish a foothold on Earth. As she read the message, her heart sank. They had little patience for her desire to create dialogue and understanding. The Council viewed Earth as a resource to be exploited, not a culture to be respected. "Are you all right?" Ron's voice broke through her thoughts as they sat in his living room, reviewing the proposal. Elia's expression must have given away her internal struggle, for Ron was quick to notice. "I received a message from my council," she admitted, her voice trembling. "They want an update on my progress." Ron's brow furrowed in concern. What do they want to know? They want to know how I'm preparing for colonization, Elia replied, her heart heavy. I'm afraid they won't understand what I'm trying to do here. They see Earth as a target, and my efforts to foster understanding may be seen as a distraction from the mission. Ron's expression shifted from concern to determination. You can't let them dictate your purpose here, Elia. You've seen what's possible when we connect with each other. This cultural exchange could be a chance to change perceptions, not just on Earth, but back on Zorol. But what if they reject it? Elia's voice was tinged with fear. What if they view my efforts as a failure? Then we prove them wrong, Ron said, his voice unwavering. You've already made significant progress by forming relationships with people here. If we can show the Council the potential for collaboration and mutual respect, they may come to see Earth differently. Elia felt a flicker of hope at his words. You really believe that? I do, Ron replied, squeezing her hand reassuringly. But you need to be honest with them about your intentions. They deserve to know that you're working toward a better future for both our peoples. As the days turned into weeks, the planning for the festival continued, and Elia found herself at a crossroads. She knew she had to confront her council about her shifting perspective, but fear held her back. Would they view her as a traitor for prioritizing connection over conquest? Finally, the day of the festival arrived, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Tents were set up, colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, and the tantalizing aromas of Zorali and Earth cuisine wafted through the air. Elia and Ron moved through the crowd, their hearts racing with anticipation. Look at everyone, Elia exclaimed, her eyes shining. This is amazing. I can't believe we pulled it off. Ron grinned, clearly enjoying the festive atmosphere. You've done incredible work, Elia. This is just the beginning. As the day unfolded, Elia watched in awe as attendees sampled foods from both cultures, listened to musicians playing traditional songs, and participated in dance workshops. Laughter and joy filled the air, a testament to the bonds being formed between humans and Zoralians. However, as the festival progressed, Elia couldn't shake the feeling of dread creeping into her heart. What if the Council saw this as a threat to their plans? What if they dismissed her efforts and insisted on a more aggressive approach? In the afternoon, Elia led a workshop on Zorali art, explaining the significance of colors and symbols in her culture. Attendees listened intently as she spoke, captivated by the stories behind each piece. Elia felt a surge of pride as she shared her heritage, and for a moment, the weight of her mission faded away. Afterward, Ron pulled her aside. You were amazing out there, he said, his eyes sparkling with admiration. You brought Zoril to life for everyone. Thank you, Elia replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. But I can't help but worry about how the Council will react. They have such a narrow view of what Earth represents. They'll need to hear the truth, Ron urged. You've created something beautiful here, something that can't be dismissed. This festival is proof that connection and understanding can exist between our worlds. As night fell, the festival continued to thrive, illuminated by twinkling lights and laughter. Elia felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of belonging that she hadn't expected. She had created a space where both humans and Zoralians could come together, and it filled her with hope. But just as the celebration reached its peak, a disturbance rippled through the crowd. A group of individuals approached, their expressions stern and determined. Elia recognized them as representatives from her council, sent to evaluate her progress. Her heart dropped. Looks like they've arrived, Ron said quietly, his brow furrowed in concern. Stay calm. Elia took a deep breath, steeling herself as the representatives reached her. Elia, we've come to assess your mission, one of them said, their tone icy. We were not informed of this festival. Elia began, but the representative cut her off. Do you think this is appropriate behavior? Celebrating while the fate of our people hangs in the balance. The accusation stung, and Elia felt her defenses rise. This festival is not a distraction, she replied, her voice firm. It is an opportunity to build bridges between our cultures, to foster understanding rather than fear. The representatives exchanged glances, their expressions unimpressed. We see only a gathering of humans and Zorolians engaging in frivolous activities, another remarked. This is not how we should approach the colonization of Earth. Elia's heart raced as she fought to hold her ground. But that's exactly it. We can't approach this mission with aggression. We need to understand the humans, learn from them. If we only see them as a resource to exploit, we risk alienating them and jeopardizing our future. The tension in the air was palpable, and Elia felt Ron's hand squeeze hers, a silent gesture of support. What she says is true. Ron spoke up, his voice steady. This festival is a testament to the potential for collaboration. By sharing our cultures, we can find common ground that benefits us all. The representatives looked skeptical, their expressions hardening. Your sentiments are commendable, but the council will not tolerate any weakness, one warned. We expect results, not celebrations. Elia felt a surge of frustration. You're missing the point. This is about more than results. It's about forging connections and understanding. If we approach humans with hostility, we will only create more division. I'm asking you to trust me. For a moment, silence enveloped them, and Elia could sense the tension in the air. She could see the representatives weighing their options, and her heart raced with uncertainty. Finally, one of them spoke. We will report back to the council. Your actions will be evaluated, and we will see if they align with our mission. With that, they turned and walked away, leaving Elia feeling hollow. She had risked everything to advocate for understanding, but it felt as if her words had fallen on deaf ears. Ron turned to her, concern etched on his face. Are you okay? I don't know, Elia admitted, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. I thought I could change their minds, but it seems like they're set in their ways. They don't see the value in what we're trying to accomplish. You did what you could, Ron said, his voice soothing. And look at the impact this festival has had. People are connecting, learning from each other. That's what matters. Elia took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. You're right, but I can't shake the feeling that I've failed my people. They expect me to deliver results, and here I am, trying to create connections instead. Ron pulled her into a comforting embrace, his warmth enveloping her like a protective shield. You haven't failed. You're laying the groundwork for something incredible. Change takes time, and it often starts with conversations like these. As the festival continued to thrive around them, Elia felt a renewed sense of determination. She wouldn't let the council's demands stifle her vision. Instead, she would double down on her efforts to create understanding between their cultures, no matter the obstacles in her path. That night, as they watched the stars twinkle overhead, Elia resolved to stay true to her convictions. She would continue to build connections, not just with Ron and Sarah, but with everyone she met. This festival was just the beginning of a journey that could change the course of their worlds. As the final fireworks lit up the sky, Elia felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that even the smallest actions could lead to monumental change. And with Ron by her side, she felt invincible, prepared to tackle the complexities of her mission and the uncertainties of the future. Together, they would confront the gathering storm and forge a path toward a brighter, more unified tomorrow.